Hi, I'm Nick. This is my first YouTube video, and I've been thinking about creating some content and creating a channel for myself for the last little while, probably more specifically over the last year. And I've been following other car enthusiasts and passionate Porsche owners in particular. It's my sort of specific sphere of interest, and I've been a Porsche owner for many years. I've done quite a bit of work with the company over the years as well as an architect, and I think I've got quite a few personal experiences in ownership and various activities and training that I can share with anyone that would care to listen to my stories. So I thought today that I'd just start off with a bit of an explanation of the current car that I have and go through the configuration process. It's quite it's quite involved in terms of selecting a Porsche, because there's a huge amount of options that you can go through. There's a massive amount of customization, which is a really unique proposition with the cars, and a big part of the attraction for them, especially when buying a new one. So I was lucky enough last year to be able to buy a new Carrera, a new 911. Its internal model designation number is 991.2. It's the new turbocharged engine, which is sort of new technology, a new platform for the current cars. It's somewhat controversial, and I'll save sort of commentary for that on another upload, another video. But that aside, I picked it up, or it was handed over in the middle of last year. So I've had it for a bit over 6 months, and I ordered the car at the start of the year. So it took a little while to arrive. There was a fair bit of waiting involved, but there's that can be an enjoyable part of the process in terms of just the anticipation of sort of waiting for this great car that you've personally selected. So I've owned a few different cars, as I mentioned at the start of the video, but the car that I had before this particular one was a Boxster. So it was a convertible. It was a 2-seater, and it was a black car. I owned it for nearly 5 years, and with most of my cars, I've tended to swap them over on a semi-regular basis, sort of somewhere between 3 to 4 to 5 years I've changed over. And with this current car, the new 911 that I've bought, I've had an ambition to sort of try to hang on to it for a bit longer. So I made a conscious decision with the selection process to sort of go for a classic, sort of purist direction, and that sort of informed all my choices. So I just thought I'd run through all of that and just sort of share that information with you. So in terms of buying the car, they're fairly expensive cars here in Australia, but I did have a budget. The top of the range cars are going to be running up to $500,000, but I was basically limited to looking at a base model Carrera. I was sort of contemplating getting a Cayman off the back of the Boxster, which I love, but the 911 became in reach, and being the sort of iconic car that it is, I made the decision to sort of stretch for the 911. So it was a little bit of a stretch, and it meant that a lot of different models were out of my grasp, and there's a lot that, they're all great cars. There isn't actually a bad 911, but I wasn't particularly interested in four-wheel drive models, nor Targas or Cabriolets. The GTS seems pretty cool, but it's expensive and not in my price bracket. I've owned a GT3 in the past, a 997, which was a fantastic car, but on this particular occasion, I'm not in a GT3 price point at the moment, so base Carrera it is. But having said that, it's an incredible car, and I'm really loving it. So So the starting point, obviously, with the configurator is just picking the model, and so Carrera it was, and I was happy with that choice and happy with two-wheel drive because it's sort of the more pure choice to make. After picking the model, there's the question of colour, and in this particular instance, I went for Carrera GT, which is a really nice silver colour. The name hints at where it comes from. It used to be exclusive. It used to be a silver exclusively for the Carrera GT, which was Porsche's supercar of the early 2000s. It's kind of a warm. It's got a warm tone to it. There are other silvers available that are quite blue in colour, but this one's got a warmness to it, which I like, and it sort of fits the classic mantra that I was going for, just with a silver car. It also was a good maintenance proposition for me as compared to the black car that I previously had. Black cars are amazing, but only 5 minutes after you've cleaned them. So and they're also quite difficult to maintain. They scratch easily. I think the pigment's quite soft, the paint pigment, and they just sort of show up every blemish and mark that you sort of gain over time. So I found it really difficult to maintain a black car, especially when I'm a bit of a perfectionist about the whole thing. So silver is a really easy option. So kind of a safe option, but easiest to maintain. And I wasn't so compelled by some of the garish colours. I think if I was getting a GT car or something more unique, it can kind of handle, a really unique colour like lava orange or, I don't know, viper green or, or even the Miami blue. I think those sort of standout colours can work for, unique 911s like GT3s or, other special models. But I think the base Carrera, I just didn't feel like those sort of bright colours were going to sort of sit well with the model. So I went with silver. So after that, there's a selection of wheels, and in this case, I stuck with the standard wheel. It's 19-inch. I went with that size wheel because this will basically be a city car for me. I'll take it out on weekends and do some spirited driving from time to time. I may or may not take it out on the track. I've tracked my previous cars, but I sort of feel like this one I want to keep in good condition, and track days aren't as motivating for me as they used to be. So I thought, just in terms of wheel size, that a 19-inch was going to be more compliant on the road, and it's a no-cost option, and cost was an issue on this particular selection. So I was being careful with the options that I went with. I needed them to count, and and with all the options that Porsche offer, the costs can escalate really quickly, and you can take a $250,000 car up to $300,000 and above really quickly. So I stuck with the 19-inch wheels, and as it sort of turned out, I actually liked the design of that standard wheel a little more than the others. There was a couple of others that I did like, but they were 20-inch, and they also attracted a real premium in price, so I steered away from it. Just looking through my notes, the next sort of choice after wheels is to sort of move into the interior.